The Breakfast Club.
You can call me the donkey of the day, but I mean no harm.
Donkey of the day for Wednesday, May 10th goes to Matt and Adele Allen, both 39 years of age.
My name's Matt.
And my name's Adele, and we are the unconventional parents.
Matt and Adele believe in something called unschooling.
So I'm a big fan of Breakfast Club. Been watching them for years. I actually normally don't watch Donkey of the Day, but for some reason, something told me to click the Donkey of the Day that day. Let's just say I'm glad I did. Cause they talking about me. I hear them talking about this couple unschooling. And I'm like, oh, you want to talk about mamas.
What about education?
Education, we are taking the unschooling route at the moment.
Unschooling?
Yeah.
So not homeschooling?
No, unschooling, that's right. It's home education, but it's freestyle. You don't follow the national curriculum, you follow their lead.
So you follow your own, his lead?
Yeah, whatever he's interested in, we provide the opportunities for him to learn about it at that time.
So first, let's establish what unschooling is. Unschooling is student-led learning. So you're still learning, but your education is delivered the way the student wants to receive it. It isn't that you're not learning, it's just you're learning in your own way. Separating school from your learning at your own time, at your own pace, without arbitrary rules and regulations that really don't have anything to do with learning. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on with that. So the lessons are driven by the student, or in this case, the child. But you can be an unschooler at any age. It's just the idea that we're following the student's lead and how they want to be taught. We want to allow the child to drive their own lessons based on their natural curiosity, necessity, and their passions. The concept of subjects is welded together like it actually happens in real life on a daily basis. When you're truly curious, or you need to, or you're passionate about something, you see the usefulness in it. That allows you to become more driven toward it, and your learning actually becomes a lot more deeper. Because a lot of times children aren't listened to because adults are projecting their personal fears, failures, and fantasies on them. So with unschooling, we focus on learning through living. And as an unschooling dad, I'm just a supporter of my children's learning journeys. I hope to expose them to different experiences to maybe spark their interest in things. So it's going to look different for every family. Children aren't just an empty vessel that we're trying to pour information into. But trust, there's going to be learning no matter what happens.
Okay, they have 3 children, and they say they don't want to force their 3 kids to learn to read or write.
The key word to that is force. Unschoolers don't force their kids to do anything that's not immediately needed for their survival. So I'm not going to force my kids to go to bed at this time. I'm not going to force my kids to read this book. I'm not going to force my kids to go to school. Force is the key word with this.
Not only will they not force their kids to read or write, they even allow them to set their own bedtimes, Envy.
Now you will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
It's not about telling a person, don't do that because it's this. It's more giving them options and choices and just making them aware of the playing field.
So if we would like them to do something, we ask them to, and they understand they have the right to say no. And then what that does is that starts a discussion. Why would I like you to do something? And then both of us come to a conclusion of why this is reasonable or unreasonable. Respect is very important. The connection in our relationship is very important. Them feeling like they have control over their lives is very important. We don't want our kids to just do something just because someone told them to do it. That gets people in a lot of trouble. So like I mentioned, if it's something that has to do with their survival, yes, it will be done. And as a parent, I will step in and make that call. But if it's what color shirt he's wearing today, bruh, it don't matter.
The kids have no fixed schedule or meal times.
Like, why is a fixed mealtime schedule necessary? Like, what do you need that at? How many adults have a fixed bedtime schedule? Almost none of us do, unless we're in some fixed regimented program where it's needed for our survival, like the military. Because whether we realize it or not, military practices is where we get most of our schooling rules from the Prussian military back in the 1800s.
I can't make this kind of stuff up, even though I wish this was made up. Let's listen to the mom talk, please.
We do not worry about them not being in school. I would worry about what they were missing out on if they were in school, actually, the complete opposite. A conventional education, I'd say, is definitely failing a large majority of children right now. So to then, go and accuse someone that opts for a different way to be irresponsible is ironic to me.
Adele Allen, ladies and gentlemen. I actually agree with her in regard to the schools not being able to properly educate kids, are finding non-conventional ways to educate kids. I think it's so many other things that you have to teach your kids at home because they simply won't learn it in school. I've even thought about homeschooling my kids for a variety of reasons. I
think that's a bit of the pot calling the kettle black.
So
So if we all agree that school sucks and that it shouldn't, then what's next, guys?
And this is where I was late 2019 as a middle school teacher in the classroom. We were doing these kids a disservice. We weren't preparing them for the world that they're going to face as adults. We weren't helping them to learn how to make better decisions, to collaborate with others, and to be creative, to find their purpose in their life, to find their whys, to have grit and determination and perseverance. And one of the biggest complaints I remember teachers talking about all the time is how we had to force the kids to do everything. Like they only did just enough to get by. But this is a system that we're using to help the future leaders of tomorrow. I realized that I had to do something else. And that's why I chose unschooling.
There's no world, any world, not this earth or the 5,000 super earths that exist out there, where someone with common sense would agree that us not teaching our kids how to read and write is a good thing.
Charlamagne, you're good. You're good. But I caught what you did there. You went from the parents aren't forcing their kids not to read to now you're saying they're not teaching their kids to read. Those are two totally different things. They didn't say they aren't teaching their kids. They just said they're not forcing them to learn. The kids will recognize on their own that it's important to learn. And that's when the learning is most successful, when they've identified why they need to learn this, instead of being told that they have to because daddy said so.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy, Gary?
It creates this picture that like you are uneducating them or something.
Like you're literally doing nothing.
Jesus, take the wheel. Whoa, 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 put your hands back on the wheel. Put your hands back on the wheel. What are you doing? Are you crazy? I don't know. You keep driving like that, we're gonna see my dad in about 5 seconds. Are you kidding me?
It means more, it's child-led.
It's trusting they want to learn and they'll go down that path.
Yeah, and that's why we're willing to do it, because we read books and we had thought about it and formulated some ideas about children and adults and how people learn and what environments they flourish in, and also asking ourselves what we wanted our kids to become.
Okay, do you understand the level of privilege that one must come from where they can say, hey, I don't even care if my kids know how to read or write, they will be fine.
Unschooling equals unparenting. Lord of the Flies, utter chaos that can only work out for the most privileged among us. I keep hearing that if you are not rich, if you are not white, or if you can't afford to stay at home, then you can't unschool. Word?
I am from South Carolina, born and raised, a state that passed the first law which prohibited teaching slaves to read and write. It was illegal to teach slaves how to read and write.
He learned you to read?
A word, here or there. But I've no understanding of the written text.
Don't trouble yourself with it. Same as the rest, Master brought you here to work, that's all. Any more, I'll earn you 100 lashes.
It was illegal to learn how to read and write, mostly pushed by the Nat Turner Rebellion. Because before the rebellion, slavers thought that slaves wanted to be slaves, just like horses want to be ridden. This idea that slaves wanted their own freedom was not something that was understood back then. So then when they saw that a reading slave led one of the most bloody rebellions in American soil, they figured they had to do something about it. And even with that, even with the threat of taking their life or getting 100 lashes or to chop off their hand or digits, and 10% of all enslaved still learned how to read without school. How did they do that? Because they were passionate about it. They saw a necessity and they had an opportunity to attack it. All we're asking is for our kids to be supported in finding their passion and given the opportunity to learn the things that they deem important.
I can understand people having reservations on teaching slaves how to, read and write because there was a punishment for it. But now we live in a world where people are willingly not teaching their kids, how to read and write because they believe in what they call child autonomy.
Oh, hell no! When he said that, because they believe in child autonomy, you just talk about slavery just a moment ago, but then continue to describe an industry of a modern day slavery and how we're treating our children, what they're learning. Learning which should be something that should be enjoyed, but we're forcing them to do it because we are afraid of what might happen if we allow them the free will to do it on their own. Nobody is going against learning, but taking a person's freedom away, there's nothing that trumps that.
Matt and Adele, your kids are going to be stupid.
Stupid is a mean word, Mr. Cooper.
They're gonna be so stupid that they're gonna go to the dentist because their Bluetooth not working.
Ah, funny.
Kids are kids for a reason. I don't care how smart your children seem to be. They have no idea how to make good decisions, okay? As parents, one of our #1 jobs is to help kids develop the skills they need to keep themselves safe.
Huh? He couldn't finish a sentence without contradicting himself.
Help your kids develop the skills they need to keep themselves safe. Self-advocacy. Don't you need that to be safe? Decision-making. Don't you need that to be safe? Building strong relationships. The ability to question, think outside of the box. Not to just fall in line just because somebody told you to do so. What's that famous thing every parent said?
Just because she jumped off the cliff, you're gonna jump off the cliff?
Well, everybody else is jumping off this school cliff, and I'm not letting my kids jump off.
Before we actually went to unschooling, I was talking to another homeschooling mom who had kids like in college, getting master's degrees and stuff. So I'm like, well, whatever she did worked. And she was like, you know, it was always a mess. It was always a mess. She's like, but I realized that I just only have a couple jobs. It's like, or she said, I really only have one job, and it's to teach them to be good people.
I know y'all all want to be progressive and you're letting your kids pick their genders and sexualities, which I think is also stupid.
No comment.
But do you really want your kids to identify as illiterate? Okay, how are they gonna pick a pronoun when they don't even know what a pronoun is?
But I'm pumped. I know, you're here all week.
Okay, Matt and Adele said one of their kids didn't pick up a pen to start writing until they were 10?
Now that's cap. The daughter said she wanted to learn how to write when she was 7 or 8 years old, and she was 6 at the time. And even if they didn't pick up a pen to write until they're 10 years old, wouldn't it be easier for them to learn how to write at that point? Their fingers are stronger, their mind's more developed, and on top of that, they have a passion and an interest toward it. So what? Just because you're judging him on when they start writing, now that's supposed to be enough to make me jump off of that cliff?
You thinking what I'm thinking, partner? Aim for the bushes.
Unschoolers aren't that weak-minded.
Nothing is more terrifying than reading out loud in class, and it's terrifying for kids who know how to read. So imagine what your little dum-dums are going to experience.
The scariest moment was having to read out loud in class. I think everybody feels a little nervousness with that. Why would we want our kids to even go through that kind of torture? What's the point? Is it worth it? Most adults don't even like reading. Are we building future learners by forcing them to do something and going through this trauma? Why are we forcing our children to eat the same lies that we were fed?
Okay, your kids are gonna be so stupid that they're gonna walk around a library for an hour looking for Facebook.
Original, you come up with that all by yourself?
No. Listen, I don't claim to be the highest grade of weed in the dispensary, nor am I the strongest Avenger. If you're new to the Breakfast Club, that's just my way of saying I'm not the brightest, but I do know that reading is not just fundamental, it's critical.
Yeah, sure. School does teach the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But at what cost? Another thing we gotta kind of consider is, if I never was forced to learn anything, would I still not learn anything? Because most of the things I've learned to do that I do now, I never was forced to do it. I didn't have to be told to do it. I was interested, I saw a necessity, and within that became a passion toward doing it.
My own definition of unschooling is a child-trusting, anti-oppression, love-centered approach to living and learning. It's so much more than an educational model. It's a way of life, and it's rooted in consent, respect, and confident autonomy.
No.
You don't want to play again?
Nope. I don't, actually.
You don't want to play again?
Nope. Do not.
Not
You should know what they are. The amount of privilege that is in this story. You should know what this is. We shouldn't even have to play a game.
All right. All right, well.
Caucasian!
Last I checked, I'm black.